Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest edition of the World Report. I'm Scott Crowfoot. We'd like to welcome Cyprus to our growing list of worldwide viewers. On today's report, 0% interest rates for the foreseeable future. Is the Fed out of ammo and out of options? We'll discuss. ISIS touts a baby boom as the key to the caliphate's future. The fastest growing language in the United States? Arabic. New polls show Queen Hillary trailing all Republican rivals in Iowa. Meanwhile, Vice President Biden is powwowing with the faux Indian, Liz Warren. Is Uncle Joe in? We'll let you know. Our moment in history discusses the founder of the Volkswagen. Do you know who it is? We'll be on top of that. Now to our top stories. Russia highlights just how inept our military has become. In 3 days, the Russians have done more against Middle Eastern militants than we've done in the past 10 years. Are we witnessing the beginning of World War III as Russia, Iran, and Syria team up, making the Sunni nations in the region very nervous? Joining us with his in-depth perspective is the World Report senior advisor and economics blogger for USA Today Online, Maury Beschloss, who can be followed on YouTube. Just search for Morris Beschloss. Maury, how worried should the Sunni countries of the Middle East be right now?
Oh, it's coming down to a big showdown. By the way, the one country you left out was Iraq, because Iran has literally taken over Iraq, which is dominated by Shias. And if you recall, the Shias were being persecuted.
Under Saddam?
Oh, Saddam Hussein persecuted them. He bombed them. He gassed them. He did everything. So now they're getting the upper hand. And you know who's really worried now?
Saudi Arabia.
Oh, Saudi Arabia's days are numbered. And the reason I say that is there's a number of reasons. They had a chance back on November 25th, 2014, when OPEC met in Vienna. And what OPEC always did in the past, when prices were starting to come down, they would stop producing, or they would reduce their production to get the prices back up. Well, this time the Saudis said, well, it's the Americans that are doing it with their fracking and the shales and so on. We're going to keep producing, and I don't care what anybody else does. When they said that, the price went down from about 65 down to the middle 40s in about 3 or 4 weeks. And Russia and Iran, who were not exactly bosom buddies at that time, both had developed their...
But they did have similar interests. I wouldn't say they were enemies.
Yes. Well, they didn't... No, they weren't enemies, but the point is Russia was pretty much preoccupied in Ukraine, and the thing that...
With its own economy that's stalling.
Well, they were getting worried because what else do they have to export other than oil and natural gas?
Vodka.
Pardon me?
Vodka.
Yeah, okay, maybe armaments. Don't forget that. They... don't belittle the Russian armament capability. That's what crushed the Nazis in the Second War. It was, listen, we did a good job on both wars, the Pacific and the war against the Germans, but the ones that crushed the Wehrmacht were the Russians. And the Russians, under Stalin, had built up one of the greatest armament capabilities behind the Ural Mountains, which Nazis knew nothing about. You know that the last year of the Second War, 1944, the Russians actually built more planes, Stormoviks and MiGs, fighter planes. They were not in for the bombers. They just built 105,000 fighter planes in 1944, which absolutely knocked the Luftwaffe out of the sky that last year. But nobody knew anything about it. So the point is, the Russians have that going for them, and they in the 50 years that they had things pretty well going their own way. During the Cold War, they not only controlled Mother Russia, but they controlled a bunch of republics, the Muslim republics in the southern part, and they controlled Belarus, White Russia, and the Baltic states, and also East Germany, and most of the Balkans. I mean, they had a huge empire. But part of that, the time that they had, they built a tremendous system of pipelines where they were able to send their oil and natural gas not only into Eastern but Central Europe. Even Germany today, their major supplier is Russia because they've got the pipelines coming right into the country, which is the most cost-effective way of shipping it. So nobody can touch them.
And that's the blackmail card that the Russians have held over Europe for decades.
Absolutely. And as Europe has recovered in a manner of speaking, you know, right now they're they're picking up a little again after being in a very recessionary situation. But you're right. I mean, when it comes to oil and natural gas, nobody can touch Russia in Eastern Europe or Central Europe or in most of the Balkans. They don't like Russia, but when it comes to getting even Ukraine, which is practically at war with Russia, is still paying Russia nice bills when it comes to those two fossil fuels which they need. So Russia has now their budget was based on $100 per barrel, and the same with Iran. And this is what they have in common. They both are getting hurt very badly. Sure, the Iranians pulled a fast one on us with this stupid nuclear deal. That's not the problem.
I don't think they pulled a fast one on us. I just think we're stupid to begin with.
Well, yeah, okay. But whichever way, it still was stupid for us to accept it. And it really wasn't. The funny thing is, all the media talks about, we're now in a position to watch them develop an atomic bomb, nuclear devices, delivery systems, and so. Doesn't mean anything. That's not what it's all about. They could get them from North Korea. North Korea's got a whole bunch of nuclear devices.
Or Pakistan.
Yeah. They all they have to do is write a check. But the point is, they are getting killed by this $40 oil, which, by the way, is starting to go up as we speak. The Secretary General of the OPEC nations today came out and said the demand is going up, our supply is going down, and we are now in a position to do something about it, which sort of was a message that prices are going to start going up. But the point is, so here comes Putin, and he sees in Iran somebody that's interested in developing a relationship. And there were a couple things that happened that I caught, and I don't think most people did. When the head of the Revolutionary Guard of Iran went to Moscow.
Against the sanctions.
Oh.
He wasn't supposed to leave the country.
I know. Oh, exactly. Well, the sanctions were a joke anyway. They found other places. They sent them to India. They'd send their stuff to Russia. Not to Russia, but to other countries in Eastern Europe. The point is that Russia figured out that they are going to do something about this oil at the low 40s, which they cannot live with. I mean, they've lived with it now for a year, but they can't keep going. They now have a 6.5% deficit in their budget, and it's getting worse all the time. So Putin has done what he's done best. He has finagled his way outside the periphery of Russia, and he's got to the Iranians. And what has come out of that is an alliance. And the alliance indicates that Russia is going to be the senior partner. Iran is going to work with Russia, and Iran has already taken over Iraq, and they've taken over Syria, and they have Assad, the head of Syria, is a errand boy now for the Iranians. So Russia, as we speak, controls a big chunk of the Middle East. And also, the Iranians hate the Saudis. They're just looking for an excuse to do something about it. If you recall, Saddam Hussein was on the verge of attacking Saudi Arabia, and what got him off the hook? What got Saudi Arabia off the hook was good old USA. And that goes all the way back to Roosevelt, who recognized the original state of Saudi Arabia when there were a bunch of nomadic tribes running all over the Saudi Arabian peninsula. And what you've got today now is the Saudis. I think the game is up for them because, first of all, they also have a very high cost, not a cost of extraction, but their cost of living now, paying the Wahhabis off so they'll go out of the country and make trouble elsewhere. They're having to pay higher wages. They're trying to develop their own refineries. They need $70 per barrel of oil. And they are hurting too.
So how does Russia going in and helping Assad increase their oil revenue?
Well, what he's going to do is it's not helping Assad. It's this whole situation of Iran, Iraq, and Syria all together under the thumb of the Russians. And now they've got Saudi Arabia where they want them because militarily they don't stand a chance. And now...
So now Saudi Arabia has to start increasing the price of oil because they're going to get
they're going to be told what to do. And here is where Obama played into the hands of Putin big time, because as you said in your introduction, you know, Putin has done more in a couple months
72 hours.
Yeah, that we've done.
He really has. I mean,
does.
It's shown what an embarrassment.
I'm agreeing with you, but here's what the threat is. There is no United States today to pull them out of their problem. You know, the Saudis have always come running to the United States when they had a problem. When Saddam Hussein was ready to invade, the United States came in and pushed them back and eventually invaded twice. And so consequently, the Saudis now know that they are in deep, deep trouble. I don't know what they're going to do, how this is going to play out, but I can tell you after the head of the OPEC made the statement that he did today, I'm sure it was cleared by Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. So now the Saudis, instead of being the big shots that they were last November and say, well, we'll produce all we want to, now they're going to have to say, we're doing what we always, you know, OPEC always did that in the past. Whenever the price got too low, they just cut the production back because they do 1/3 of all the oil production in the world. 32 million barrels a day out of the 92 that are demanded. So consequently, I think you're going to be seeing a major, major confrontation, and it's going to result in higher oil prices the next time we're together.
We're going to continue this on the other side of the break. We need to step aside for a brief moment. We'll return with our economic and energy update, global outlook, political insider, and much more. We get lots of questions from viewers all over the world. Just email your question or video to maury@theworldreport.org, and you might see your video featured right here. Remember to like us, recommend us, and leave comments.